this is going to seem like a promotional video, and I suppose in some ways it is. This is the set of decals that I design and sell at www.fusing.shop. They are water slide decals that fire into a beautiful black. I recently had them tested, and they have tested to be completely food safe. And so I wanted to see how I could use these beyond the ornaments and sun catchers that I've made before. So the following video will show that, and if you watch to the end of the video, I have a special promo code for my YouTube subscribers for a discount. Thanks. Okay, I know this is going to come across as an advertisement for my decals, and I guess in some ways it is, but if you didn't know, I sell decals, and so I'll drop a link to my website where you can find that. There are some old videos that I've done featuring those decals, so I'll also drop a link into how you can find those. But I wanted to play with them a little bit, and so I had an idea to do something a little different with them. I originally designed them to be used as like a sun catcher or as an ornament, and they work great for that. But I decided this time I want to try a couple different things. So one, or two, I guess, I'm going to make some platters. So I've got some white tecta and some clear tecta, and I'm going to put the clear on top because I kind of want the depth. But on top of this, I'm going to put 2 circles of frit. And so when I have that in the kiln and ready to go, I'll show you what that looks like. And then I'm going to do a full fuse. Then I'm going to apply my decals and refire them and make a platter using my decals. So that's the first idea I'm going to share, and I'm going to do 2 of those, and I'll show you those when they're in the kiln. Okay, so I have my white tecta down on the base. I dusted a little layer of clear powder, and now I've got my clear tecta on top. And these are 12-inch by 8-inch blanks, and so what I did was I measured in 4 inches and 4 inches so that I could make 2 spots that are kind of centered, and then measured down 4 to kind of align it, made a little mark so I know where it is. Now I've put these rings here, which I found on Amazon, I think, English muffin rings. They happen to be exactly 3.5 inches, which is the size of my decal. And so now I've got frit, clear frit. I did my own frit mix colors, and I'm going to put some of that in a layer directly on top of the glass here. This is fine frit. I'm just going to do about 1 level layer, and then I'll pick my rings up. Now those might kind of spill out a little bit, and that's okay. I think that organic look might look kind of cool, so I'm not going to be too worried about controlling the spill. I'll show you what it looks like when I've got that done. Okay, so there you are. Let's see, I said I wasn't going to be too worried about it spilling out, but there was a little piece I didn't like. So I just put, like I said, about a layer's worth down, and I have a different frit color mix that I used over here, and so I'm going to take these up to a full fuse, and we'll take the blanks out, and we'll take them out when they're done, and then we'll apply the decals. Okay, so my pieces are done. Let me get this one on camera as well. So here is the first one. I was probably a little dark here, a little heavy-handed, so it's a little darker saturation of color than what I would have wanted. This is a little bit closer, but even then, it's still a little dark in the middle. But that's all right. I still think it'll look cool. So that's the first one. I have a frit mix that I use for this that I call Evening Shadows. That was a recommended name from my friend Paulette. And then this one is Morning Light. And so I use fine frit. I will put in the comments what my frit mixes are. So I'll drop that into the comments if you're interested. Here too, probably just a little bit too much saturation. It's a little better around the edges where I was a little thinner with the application, but that's all right. It looks good. So I am now going to apply my decals, and so here they are. I'm going to do the same design in both circles but 2 different designs from each platter. These are both from my newer line for 2024. So anyway, or 2022, I should say. 4 of them from 2022. Okay, I'm rambling. So I'm going to apply those. Let me show you what that looks like in just a little bit. I'll clean my area up here and get prepped. So I've done another video on how to apply these decals, so I'm going to just keep this brief. I've got just a shallow, this is a to-go lid from a Chinese restaurant takeout. And you don't need a lot of water, just pour some water. I try to use distilled water, but you don't need a lot. And all you have to do is, if there's some of the decals have a protective layer, so if they do, you just have to peel that off, and it generally comes off pretty clean, although this one does not seem to want to come off cleanly for me, of course. And what I found is that if it doesn't come off perfectly clean, you can't get all the tissue off, you can use a little bit of vinegar and white vinegar, and that takes it right off. So I'll do that to that one in just a bit. This one does not have that film. So all you have to do is just soak it in water for, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. These are water slide decals. So the yellow that you see is not actually part of the design itself. That's just the flux, the membrane that kind of keeps the ink together, and that burns completely clear, burns off. And so you just let this soak in here for, like I said, maybe 30 seconds. It kind of depends on how warm your water is. I would not use very warm water, because it'll come off real quick. Really just room temperature is fine. And so, and then you slide it to make sure, yeah, so can you see it's kind of coming loose? So you just kind of take the edge of your design where you want that, you put it down and just kind of hold it and slide this decal right off of the paper. And then I usually just use my fingers and some extra water to just make sure that I've got all the air bubbles out. And that's important, because if there's air trapped underneath, if there are bubbles underneath this decal or air underneath the decal, then the enamels, the inks will not adhere right, and you'll get some gaps in your coverage. So that is as simple as that. Now I am going to clean this other one up and then apply it, and I'll apply the other two, and then I'll come back and tell you about the schedule and what that looks like from here. Okay, so I have put these on here. They're nearly dry. I generally like to let them dry before I fire them in the kiln. And what that allows me to do too is to get a fresh look at them and look for any final bubbles. If I see any bubbles, you can use a tiny pin or something to try to pop that, and then just, you know, apply a little pressure to kind of get that to lay down. Again, you just want all of the decal to be touching all of the glass as much as possible. So, these fire, I like the 1200 degrees for 30 minutes schedule. It gives you a nice, in my kiln, it gives me a really nice solid black. I'm going to slump these platters as well into one of my favorite molds. It's a rectangular mold. There are no markings on it, but I got it from Laurie's Spray. And I can drop a link to her website because I think she's got them available again. It's 12 by 18. It's just a nice platter size. And my firing schedule for slumping in this has generally been 1200 degrees for 60 minutes. The schedule for these is 1200 for 30. I don't know if I can do this in a one and done or not. So because I'm worried that 60 minutes might overfire the decal, but I need 60 minutes to get a nice slump. I also don't know what will happen if I slump and do the decal at the same time. So for you, I'm willing to test this to see what happens. So I'm not gonna put this other one in yet, but this first one, I'm gonna go ahead and do a slump and fire on the decal at the same time, and let's see what happens. The other thing I would note is that I very carefully went around here and cleaned up the rest of the glass, because it does get a little sloppy when you're applying those, and I just don't want there to be any devitrification or anything that fires into the glass. So I used a rag that I put a little bit of vinegar on, and just very, very, very carefully went all the way around the decal so that I could clean up my base glass. So I'm gonna go in for firing and we'll see what happens. Okay, this one turned out quite well. So 60 minutes at 1200 worked great. I got exactly the slump that I wanted, and those decals are gorgeous. So they're bright, or rather really saturated black. Now again, my colors of the base piece underneath are rather dark, but I'm pleased with how the decal itself turned out. So that ended up being a great just second firing, which tells me I can do these in just 2 firings. So I'm pleased with that. I am going to go ahead and put the other one in, and I'll show you that one in just a bit. The second one came out of the kiln and it looks great. So I'm real pleased with this. The colors are brighter because these are just generally brighter frit colors that I used. I also didn't use quite the same level of saturation, still a little thick in some areas, but the decals themselves fired flawlessly. So I'm very, very pleased with this project generally. Now I use these on platters because I can't remember if I said this at the beginning of the video, but I had these tested by a third-party lab to confirm that they match Bullseye's criteria for food safety. So if you're familiar with Bullseye glass and what is food safe and not, I actually sent these to a lab and had them tested for cadmium and lead and other things, and they came back food safe. So I can very confidently use these on a platter, and they're food safe, and I'm delighted by that. So if you like this idea, the decals themselves, again, are available at www.fusing.shop. It's a .shop website, not .com, www.fusing.shop. And I think that there's lots of ideas where you could take this. You could use just clear glass and you know, some colored frit and put them on there, or you know, large pieces and chunks of glass. The decals themselves, I'm not bragging, but they're gorgeous enough. Actually, you could use them on any solid color and just have black outline, and they would look you know, frankly, pretty amazing. So again, check those out. Website is www.fusing.shop, and get yourself ready for the holidays with these food safe decals. Catch you later. Bye-bye.